In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, it is going to be a fun episode if my voice can make it through. I don't know why. I just sound like Elton Brand right now. But what's going to make this episode fun is that we're going to read some of the Twitter comments about their best NBA comps from Cooper Flagg. And I've never seen a player that just has such a wide range of NBA comps. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my brother, James Barlowe. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You can start it with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. I also want to talk about the new Locked On newsletter. Check it out at LockedOnDaily.com. Whichever NBA team you support, there is a newsletter from Locked On that will be delivered right to your inbox every morning. Check it out, LockedOnDaily.com. And if you are not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because we are your daily source for NBA draft content. And this NBA draft class is shaping up to be interesting. I still think it's a three-man race. Cooper Flagg, the 6'9" forward from Duke, is the favorite to be the number one pick. And based off of the comments on our YouTube channel, it's not consensus. I mean, there's some that really like him. There's some that, quite a few actually have Ace Bailey ahead of him. I've seen that based off of our video yesterday where we talked about what's the difference between Ace Bailey and Trey Johnson. I was actually surprised to see that there are a lot of people that still have Ace Bailey in the race. I think it's, a three-man race between Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey. But what makes this draft interesting is the whole Cooper Flagg dynamic. He was the favorite coming into the season. He is box office. He's becoming divisive. He's getting to the point where there are people that just don't like him. And I think it's because of the hype, or maybe because his scoring isn't, the prettiest and like the same mode of a Kevin Durant or Michael Beasley, or maybe even like a Zion Williamson that he was compared to. But when it comes to comparisons, the Cooper Flagg NBA comps are all over the place. I mean, like, I've seen some wild ones. Some are trolling, but I want to hear yours first. Who is your Cooper Flagg comp as of today? Because I know mine has changed over time.
All right, so it doesn't make sense, but I'm stuck in between, and they're gonna kill me for this, but I said it and I meant it when I said it before. But there is some Kawhi Leonard somewhere in there, but there's also some Jalen Johnson, and that's like, I know, right, a broad range of players in my opinion. So if the small forward thing works, he could be a Kawhi Leonard like player. But if the power forward thing where he tilts to, then he could be like Jalen Johnson, and Jalen Johnson's like 20, 10, and 5 right now.
And you take that. I
Oh,
mean, you would
absolutely.
definitely take that. For me, and I'll be honest, when I first saw him play, I think he's probably like 15 years old. I saw him as a play finisher, an elite shot blocker and defender. I was like, this is Kenyon Martin all over again. And then obviously he has evolved as far as like the ball handling, the playmaking. But I thought he was going to be a modern day Kenyon Martin. Instead of knocking down, short corner jumpers or elbow jumpers, I thought it would extend to the three. Now, I'd say that if I had to make a comp for him, it would be a slimmer, less explosive Blake Griffin. And so the reason I say that is because remember when Blake got to the league, he was
He was
a
dunking
dunker,
everything.
dunking everything. I was living in LA at that
Right.
time. He had that
He's.
launcher pad.
I think he saved, not saved. He helped that transition of basketball in the NBA. Like he was box office at 9:30 Central Time every night. Like every night he was dunking on somebody.
Oh yeah, I was living in LA at that time. Actually, like I had an internship with the
Oh
Clippers.
yeah.
I just we
Were
just
you on
moved.
clip?
No, but we just moved in. I got like the little employee handbook. I found it that they gave me.
They had a handbook?
Yeah, it was an
Wow.
intern handbook, but he was box office. He was jumping over cars, which wasn't that impressive, but
But he
he was
was
jumping
jumping over
over
the Kendrick
cars.
Perkins.
He was super. Now Cooper Flagg is like a phenomenal athlete, but he's not that level of athlete. It's like with John Morant. There are athletic guards, and then there's like
All right.
John Morant. There's like a totally different level of athleticism and fluidity and flexibility. I mean, you see the dude dunk backwards. Like, how
Yeah.
many point
That
guards?
was that was amazing. Like
Yes, I
him
mean
and
he's
like Vince Carter are the
yeah
first two
him,
to come to mind.
Vince Carter, and I say like Stacey Augmon got that same like Gumby flexibility
That's
in a
crazy.
sense. And so when I think of Cooper Flagg, I mean he's not as stocky as Blake. And then Blake didn't start shooting threes until late in his career. But Blake extended his range to the point where he was pretty automatic from the short corners and the elbow, even though it looked like he was shooting on the way down. But I thought he was automatic. I think Flagg can be like Blake Griffin in the sense of he could be dynamic role man, but he can also bring the ball up and initiate the offense. And I remember there were times when Chris Paul was hurt. Blake Griffin was their like point guard in a sense, and he handled the ball. He initiated the offense. Blake Griffin's first year in Detroit, I think, is one of the most underrated
Oh yeah.
seasons.
He was like 25, 9, and like 5, and he was shooting
Yeah,
like 7 threes a game, and then his knee was like, man, that's all I got left.
but
Dog.
he did that without like the explosiveness, and so I think that Flag can be, at least in my opinion, I think he can be a dynamic role man, a secondary playmaker, a guy that can run 4 or 5 pick and rolls. And I just think that he could end up being like a scaled down version of Blake Griffin. And if you extend Blake Griffin's like prime, his best years, and the Flag can do that for 10 years, that is worthy of a number one pick.
See, my thing with the Blake Griffin comparison is that there is a 40-pound difference. Like Blake was diesel strong, and I feel like he was a power forward with guard skills, whereas I think Flag is a true tweener. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the difference is you don't need that 40 pounds of bulk in today's game because, Blake early in his career, there was still Tim Duncan. There was still
Yeah,
like Zach Randolph. Remember
yeah,
Zach choked him in that pile up. There were still those guys from the, whether it's like Serge Ibaka or you had Garnett. Guys, and if you played, they never really played Blake as a small ball
they
five.
had true fours still.
Yeah, and so I think that's why it's not much of a difference because look at your fours today: Jalen Johnson,
Yeah,
uh, Jason Tatum. But the game is totally different. So that's why I think Flag can be a less explosive. Well, I guess everybody is less explosive than
prime, but he had
Prime
springs in
Blake.
his knees, man.
He was jumping out the gym. All right, up next, we are going to read some of the comparisons I saw on Twitter. This should be a fun exercise. I'll read the names. I'm actually going to post a tweet if you're watching on YouTube, and James and I will react to the tweets. But before we get into the second segment, which I've been looking forward all day to reading some of these tweets, let's talk about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, which is America's number one sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And it is on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that's at FanDuel.com. All right. You ready for this? I know I'm ready because my voice is like killing me, man.
Let's go, Doc Rivers, man. Let's get this over with, man.
All right. So I screenshot about maybe like 20 different tweets. And so, all right, here's the first one. All right. The question was, who is Cooper Flagg's NBA comp? It was actually brought up on Twitter by Courtside Films. You follow like basketball, you've seen Courtside Film videos for years. Yeah. I actually used to see them at games a long time ago when there wasn't 100 videographers on the floor. Cool group of guys from Iowa. They proposed a question, and here's some of the answers. So the first one I screenshot was Cooper Flagg's comparison. A guy, Jeff Peterson on Twitter, says Cooper Flagg is a cross between a more physical Jason Tatum and a slightly less athletic Grant Hill.
You know what?
Thoughts?
I kind of like the Grant Hill comparison. Again, handle has to get tighter, obviously. And the jumper has to get better. But like Grant was serving major buckets.
But Grant's first step was lethal.
It was lethal. And he said he had one move. He had two moves. He had a crossover and he had a fake crossover. But
and he said the wings in the NBA at the time weren't used to dealing with somebody that can handle the ball.
Listen, that's a whole nother story. Ralph, don't get me started on the tangent, but everybody's like, man, at least all the old heads say hand checking is this, hand checking is that. Listen, everybody in the history of basketball from, I want to say, 88 on that had handles got what they wanted. Yeah. Tim Hardaway, Kevin Johnson, Mark Price, Jordan with his basic right to left crossover, Grant Hill, they got what they wanted, man.
Somebody clipped a video I saw of all Jordan's like best ball handling moves. Man, I had never seen him before. Yo, he was so fast. I think that's like the most underrated aspect of Jordan's game was that dude was crazy fast. So that everybody else was playing a quicksand. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is from George Karl himself.
Oh, what does this mean? Go ahead and read it.
George Karl himself says Cooper Flagg's comparison is Kevin Garnett. Okay, the quote is thinking KG. What are your thoughts on that?
I read that incorrectly. I was reading that thinking that he was saying KG doesn't think. Like he was saying KG wasn't smart, but Kevin Garnett again.
Maybe he was calling him a thinking KG.
I don't see. That's why I was like, hold on, what we doing, George Karl? Kind of loaded there.
George is known for getting a little spicy on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not even going to address that. But again, I think Kevin Garnett, similar to Blake Griffin, was a 4 that could handle. I think Cooper Flagg is stuck in between the positions, or the modern day version of what we think is a 4, which is you can guard 3s and 4s. So, I mean, I get it, the defense, but he's not a pure 4 to me.
He's not 7 foot
and he's not 7 foot.
Yeah, I think he's a pure 4 to me. All right, let's go on to the next one. Edward Jackson D says LeBron is the only comp. He's not the first person I've seen say that. Somebody in our YouTube comments said that. All right. LeBron James, is that a comp for Cooper Flagg? And I've actually had somebody explain it to me. They're like athletic, chase down blocks, point forward.
Bully.
Like suspect shooter coming into the league. And I'm like, all right, you put it that way. But
I'm never comparing anybody to LeBron James.
And it just shows like Cooper Flagg is a really good athlete, But
He's
when
not
you think
LeBron.
about like some of these outlier on top of outlier athletes like LeBron, and you have to like say, you know what, I'm gonna go watch 2009 Bron, and you're like, nah, Cooper
Dude,
not
did
jumping
you
off that.
remember when they played the Bobcats? And he took off from like the dotted line and dunked backwards, and he like hovered across the screen.
I just can't compare anybody to LeBron James. LeBron is a one of one. But if you like kind of like dumb it down to like LeBron's strengths, I mean, I think LeBron was a more natural like playmaker and passer. I think Cooper is a good passer, but Bron was a great passer coming into the league. I think LeBron was more so of a natural point guard. But yeah, I can't compare anybody to Bron.
That's crazy.
All right, this one, I don't get it. UW Hoops World. I hope he was trolling. He said Cooper
Maybe
Flag
he was
NBA
thinking about
comparison.
Ace Bailey with this one.
No, I mean, he said Cooper Flagg's NBA comparison is Rashard Lewis. Hold on, that's not even the funniest one. But yeah, maybe he was thinking Ace Bailey. All right, we'll go to the next one. We don't even have to comment on that. A guy named Raptor Shack says Scottie Barnes is Cooper Flagg's best comparison. His quote is, I said Scottie Barnes months ago and people got mad. What do you think about that one?
I'm not mad at Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is a ball handling four that can run the offense, can be a bully when he needs to be. I think Flag is more athletic than Scottie Barnes. Scottie's not stiff. He's kind of like rigid. It's kind of hard to explain. He's a good athlete, but I think Flag is a level higher athlete than him. But I'm not mad at that comparison. And,
And
and,
I'll be
and
honest, I didn't like Scottie Barnes at Florida State. I
yeah,
was
you
like,
called him Draymond, right?
uh,
You said it on TV.
maybe no, I think I did say it on TV. I thought that when they described what I said was when they described his attributes, it sounded like a role player. And I was like, I don't know if I'm taking that top five. I actually thought that what was that the year that everybody thought Suggs was gonna go four
Yeah,
and Scottie was gonna go five. I'll admit I was wrong on that. I did not see Scottie Barnes being who he is. Florida
Scottie is
State had him handcuffed. They held him back.
he's good, and again, he does a lot of good things. Handles the ball, he rebounds, he passes. Scoring's getting better. Jump shots are getting a lot better. And again, it goes back to what you said as far as like positions. When it was him and Siakam playing next to each other for that little bit that they play, and OG was there too in Toronto. What position did anybody play? They all played 3, 4 hybrids. So it's like, what's a forward today besides like Giannis and Evan Mobley? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'll say this about that comparison: Flag is a lot better to me than what Barnes was as a freshman. Now, maybe it was because Florida State was holding him back because Scottie didn't start. But if Flag ends up being what Scottie Barnes is today, I mean, I think you take that. All right. Next one, Josh Smith. What do you
Mm.
think about that one? Cooper Flagg's comparison, a guy named Moreau Sports Media Production Company said Josh Smith as the comparison.
All right. So shout out to Josh Smith. He was ahead of his time. I know a lot of people will say that, but he really was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Should have been an all-star. He was the king of the 2 blocks, 2 assists. He was and about 4 or 5 assists. I get it. I think they're different kinds of athletes, and I think Flag handles the ball more than Josh Smith. Josh Smith could grab and go, but I get what he's saying, but I
I get
think
it too.
they're different.
Yeah, I think Josh. Well, I put it like this: Josh wasn't going to be able to handle the ball in Atlanta with ISO Joe.
They said Jeff Teague said he couldn't handle the
He
ball.
couldn't handle the ball. Once Joe was getting that ball, he was getting to his ISO bag. But we saw how special Josh was in his short-lived Rockets career when they had him and James Harden together and they beat that Clippers team that was up 3-1. Now, Josh, I mean, most people are going to remember him in Atlanta or Detroit. And then his career just seemed like it just fizzled out after
Yeah.
that stint in Houston. But I get it. I get where he's coming from. And actually, I love the cross racial comparisons that we're getting. But
Ooh, I think
as
it's
we
some
go down
racial.
this list, you're gonna see some that you're like, you know what, you just made, as James made the term famous on YouTube, complexion comparison. All right, up next, we're gonna get into quite a few more of these Cooper Flagg NBA comps from Twitter. But before we get in to the last segment, let's talk about Mint Mobile. I know you want to save money on your phones, so you can say goodbye to overpriced wireless plans and the jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with a premium wireless plan that starts at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, and it is delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So you can keep your phone, your current phone that is, with any Mint Mobile plan, and you get to keep your number along with your existing contacts. Like, who wants to get a new phone and lose your contacts? Plus, you get to ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal, where you get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15. And to get this new customer offer on your new 3-month wireless plan for $15 a month, all you have to do is go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. You can cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. Again, mintmobile.com/wireless. Sorry, again, mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Now, there is a $45 upfront payment required, which is the equivalent of $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, last segment. And when I say my voice is struggling right now, but I'm gonna fight through it, man. No load management for me. I'm gonna fight through it. Now tomorrow I may not be able to talk because I may just have to type. But you know what? There's AI for that. I can type. I can go to I forgot the name of Streamlabs, clone myself, but no days off for me. No load management. It's either gonna be me or an AI clone tomorrow. All right, let's get right into it. The next comparison, I've seen this one quite a bit. It may be a complexion comparison, but I think that it's not too far off in a sense as far as from the defense. AK-47 2.0. Lucas Nutt says that Cooper Flagg is Andre Kirilenko 2.0. What are your thoughts on that? And that's pretty common. I've seen that one a lot.
It definitely is complexion comparison. I get it. I don't really agree with it. I feel like if you're going to go with an Andre and you feel like you see all Cooper Flagg skills, you had mentioned in the podcast we did before, how about we go with Andre Iguodala, which we do have in the rundown, but I like that more than Kirilenko. Kirilenko couldn't shoot, and like Flagg can't shoot either right now, but there is a level of ball handling, scoring that he has, whereas Kirilenko he wasn't the scorer, and again, I know he lost confidence in his jump shot, and then it kind of like spiraled from there. But I like Iguodala comparison more than Kirilenko.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, the next one we have is, check this one out. Bloody Horns podcast says Cooper Flagg's comparison, NBA comparison, is Christian Laettner with Amari Stoudemire's athleticism. I don't agree fully on Amari's athleticism.
That was a one-of-one athlete right
Cooper's
there.
a very good athlete. I just think that he's getting compared to like outliers, like I said. But I think Cooper's athleticism is going to look better in NBA spacing, especially as the role man. If he can get, a really good playmaking guard to find him as the role man, I think that he is going to put some guys on some posters, because once he gets to his launching pad, but Amari was, I mean, when you think Amari, you got to factor in the big hands where you
Man,
can
he
just
caught everything.
Yeah, where the ball looks like a grapefruit. And when the ball is that small, it makes dunking on guys a whole lot easier. But anyway, your thoughts, Christian Laettner and Amari Stoudemire.
Christian Laettner might be a little. I remember Christian Laettner growing up. I remember he stomped on somebody's chest.
Tate George for
George.
UConn. Yeah, Christian Laettner was the best college basketball player ever.
I think he was, from what I recall, I think he was second, but I think Jay Williams is the best college basketball player that I remember seeing.
I was too young to remember Lou Alcindor and all those guys, but Christian Laettner won championships. He hit buzzer beaters. He stepped on a dude's chest. He beat Larry Johnson. He beat Shaq.
He beat Chris Webber.
Yeah. He
actually
had a chance to meet him, and Cooper Flagg is he was a jerk. just keep it 100, man. I see why people. I didn't like him when I was, a kid growing up, and it was just because that was the whole time where you just hated Duke because you loved the Fab Five.
Grant Hill had that bowl cut too, yeah.
And Thomas Hill, actually met Thomas Hill too recently. I think he's on a Hawks staff, and they had the bowl cuts. Christian Laettner was very good. But Flagg won't be there long enough to
run through everybody like that,
like Laettner did. If he does, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the Amari comparison though, Amari was dunking and another thing about that, Amari is probably 245. Flagg is listed at 205. That's a different weight class.
All right, Memphis Rudy Gay.
Memphis Rudy Gay. First of all, Memphis Rudy Gay. He hit every clutch shot somehow. I liked Rudy Gay. He fell. Remember, he was drawing those Scottie Pippen comparisons too, coming out of UConn. Mm-hmm. Memphis Rudy Gay, though, I don't know, man. I think there's on the offensive end, if he ends up with like Rudy Gay's jump shot, you'd absolutely take it. But I guess if you say Rudy Gay was in 2024, he would be a hybrid 3-4. I never really thought about that comparison, though. I just remember Rudy Gay, he would play like average basketball up until the fourth quarter, and then when the game was on the line, he would hit big shots. And he'd be like, "Man, I can't stand this dude, but he hits these big shots."
Yeah, but Rudy didn't have the playmaking.
Yeah, Rudy was not about that passing life at all.
Yeah, so that kind of throws that off a little bit. All right, let's see what the next one we have. Tremaine Isabel says Scottie Barnes with a better jumper. We talked about Scottie Barnes. A guy named Q Newport Beach J. This one has a little bit of complexion comparison.
That's a lot.
And then he switches back. He said he gave 3 players: Karolinko, Tom Gugliotta,
shout out to Tom Gugliotta,
Andre Iguodala. Well, I remember Tom Gugliotta at NC State. But when I think of Tom Gugliotta to this day, I just think about how much Chris Webber hated him. Do you remember that rant? It was on like Inside the NBA. Somebody said something about Tom Gugliotta, and Webber was foaming at the mouth because he was like, I guess Tom Gugliotta had won some awards over him and from like middle school.
Yeah.
And so on. And he's talking about how much he used to go off and kill Gugliotta every time they played. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Gugliotta?
Gugliotta was, I remember you had the Gugliotta trading card when he played for Golden State. And he played for the Bullets. But they traded for each other?
Maybe. I remember Gugliotta with the Wolves.
I remember him with the Wolves. I can't even act like I remember Tom Gugliotta outside of some trading cards, man. But for him to go back to Tom Gugliotta, man, that's an OG right there. Yeah, shout out to Chris Webber, man. He's one of the most underrated players of the last like 30 years, too, man.
Oh yeah, he was definitely born in the wrong era. All right, we got to run through these real fast. Reminds me of Tatum. I don't see the Tatum comparisons at all. I do not see the Jason Tatum comparison.
So he doesn't have Tatum's handle, but I think like statistically at Duke, their numbers are close. The raw numbers are close. Rebounds, I think obviously Flagg is favored there. Jump shot,
definitely assists. Yeah.
should be Flagg, and then like steals in the blocks is gonna favor Flagg. I don't see it because as freshman, Tatum was a better ball handler, and he was definitely glued to that elbow, putting in work. But I don't really see that comparison. But again, hybrid 3-4 or whatever you think Tatum is, I see that.
Now this one got me. T-Mac. Somebody named Brigadell said Cooper Flagg's NBA comp is T-Mac. And when I think of T-Mac, I don't know, is he talking about Tracy McGrady or Tracy McMurray?
So since we throwing out random white dudes, Todd McCullough.
Yeah. I don't see T-Mac. Maybe he saw Cooper hit a pull-up jumper.
Nah, you know what it is, Ralph? It's the off the backboard dunks that Flagg was doing in the EYBL. It has to be where you get T-Mac from.
Yeah, I definitely don't.
But other than that, nah, I'm not saying T-Mac.
All right, the next one, Fast Break Freud said Cooper Flagg's NBA comp is a young Brent Berry.
White dude that can jump.
Complexion comparison.
Brent Berry was a sniper.
But you know what's funny though? It's a complexion comparison, but Brent Berry was white.
Yeah.
Athletic.
True.
And he could pass.
Yeah.
I mean, but they played totally different positions, and Brent Berry could shoot.
Right.
But yeah, I hope he was trolling on that one. All right. The next one, another Rudy Gay. What? This one says Rudy Gay and MPJ. MPJ is Michael Porter Jr.
Are you sure it's Michael Porter Jr.?
Who else could it be?
I don't know because Cooper Flagg can't shoot, so it's definitely not Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. doesn't pass, so I don't get that.
He lost me there, but
Rudy Gay seems like he's winning.
We should have kept the tally. It's got to be between Grant Hill, Kirilenko, and Rudy Gay.
And Scottie Barnes. All right, the next one is, this has to be complexion comparison.
Keith
Van Horn.
How many white dudes we got?
Honest
Van Horn.
Yes.
Kirilenko.
His name is Honest Spo on Twitter, and he says Cooper Flagg's NBA comp is Keith Van Horn. Van Horn shot threes. Van Horn was white and athletic and could block shots. But he wore socks high. Cooper Flagg don't wear socks high. All right, let's go. We only got a few more left. A better peak Gordon Hayward.
That's another. You know what? That's complexion comparison. Gordon Hayward was a small forward that could. If Cooper Flagg has Gordon Hayward's offensive ability, minus the injuries, you would absolutely take that.
Hayward was a pretty good athlete.
He was athletic. He could create his own shot. He definitely was both spinning in the paint.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward would spin and shoot that turnaround jumper. He just he had the worst luck with injuries. And I think that probably killed his love for the game. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets are like, hey, dog, stay in shape, man. Just stay in shape. We just need you for about till April. Because he can play.
I think
that's a good spot for him, I think, if he still cared to play basketball.
The next comparison, John Stallman.
What?
Somebody named City Slicker said Cooper Flagg's NBA comparison is John Salmon.
John Salmon was getting buckets in Milwaukee, in Chicago,
and he was versatile. He was like he could pass, he could handle the ball. But John was a 3, and I think Cooper's a 4. So that one was funny. All right, here's another one: Pascal Siakam, guy named Mr. Take E says Pascal Siakam. I love the cross-racial comparison. I get where he was going there.
Flagg's better athlete than Siakam, though.
Better athlete than Siakam, but I guess I can see where he sees it from the mismatch standpoint. If you put a 3 on Siakam, he'll post him up. If you put a 4 on him, he can get by him. So I actually kind of like that. I mean, I'll take that. All right, a guy named Mushad Moore says Cooper Flagg's NBA comparison is Paul George. I don't really see that one.
Nah, that's tough. Paul George got sons out here, and I don't think Cooper Flagg is one of them.
All right, and the last one. I had to save this for last. Joe Ingles. I don't know how you can compare probably the least athletic player in the NBA in the modern era.
2 years.
Yes. A guy that never got to the rim. I mean, he's got that the pass fake. But yeah, he had to have been trolling with Joe Ingles, but because Joe is not looking to score. Joe is the ultimate connector.
Yeah,
and I think at the minimum, Flagg is going to be a connector, but a different level of connector. We're talking about the guy that's still going to be able to score 15 to 17 points a game at the minimum as a connector. Wow. No, and then Joe Ingles could only shoot.
Only shoot.
He could only shoot because he definitely wasn't beating anybody off the dribble. So I thought
and
that
he couldn't
was
guard anybody either.
Yeah, exactly. So he had to have been trolling. Well, that wraps up this fun episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Shout out to all the people that tweeted their responses. Thank you for the entertainment. Well, that wraps up this podcast. Like I said, again, check out the Locked On NBA newsletter, lockedondaily.com. James and I are out. Stay tuned for a big episode coming up. We are going to cover the AJ DeBansa decision.
Hopefully, get you some tea.
Yeah, if I don't, I'm gonna have a AI clone do it for me.